time of year again. It's not technically the new year, but to me, fall always feels like a sort of new year. September to me has always felt full of excitement, a new year, new books, new things to learn. And even though I work year round now, I'm a teacher, so my schedule tends to follow that same yearly pattern. And regardless of what season it is for you or what your schedule's like, chances are, if you're watching this video, that you're the type of person who likes to plan and stay organized and enjoys being on top of your goals. And so in this video, I'm going to be walking you through my system for a mid-year reset, which I just completed myself for this new season of fall. I like to organize my resets in terms of looking back, looking around, and looking ahead. So let's start with looking back. Looking back essentially means considering the last year or season or month, however long it's been since you last reset. I suggest beginning this process of reflection by thinking about and writing the answers to the following prompts. First, write out any big wins from this time. If you're someone who sets yearly or quarterly goals, you might choose to look back at your most recent goals and consider where you're at with them. But remember that while success can be checking off a big personal or professional goal, it can also look like smaller things, like finishing a book that you really wanted to read, or having dedicated more time to self-care, or having learned how to set boundaries in your relationships. So whatever feels like an important win for you over this past amount of time, go ahead and make a list of it. Next, consider the things that have been your highlights, the things that when you look back stand out as having been really enjoyable or special to you. Not only can it feel really good to reminisce on these events, but we're actually going to be returning to this list later on when we move on to the looking ahead portion of this reset. So you've written down your wins, your highlights, and hopefully you're feeling pretty good, because in the next prompt, we aren't necessarily going to be reflecting on what felt really positive about the past, but instead we're going to think about what is not working. So think about your days, think about your weeks, think about the systems that you have in place in your life, and let yourself really pay attention to what isn't actually working very well or what isn't serving you. So you might consider things in your home, such as maybe there's a certain cabinet or drawer that's really disorganized and you can never find what you need and that's not working. Or maybe it's your cleaning routine that doesn't feel efficient or effective and maybe that's not working. Or maybe it's something in your personal life related to your relationships, your friendships, or in your professional life, your productivity, your goal setting. Think about an area in which you often feel like you're hitting a snag that's preventing you from moving forward. So for example, for me in this reset, I took a look at the way that I take notes on books that I read. I love taking notes when I read, and I love being able to look back at all the books that I've read over a given year and see what I noticed and what I pulled out as important from them. And for a lot of things on my computer, I use the app Notion to organize. And at first I had the books that I was reading listed in there, and I would try to go into the app on my phone and take notes under the section where I had all the books listed. And I just found that it was too many steps for me personally on my phone when I was trying to read, and it just was preventing me from taking good notes. It felt really frustrating. It made me not want to read. So I rethought through this system and I decided that instead of taking my book notes in Notion, I would take them on the Notes app on my phone, which was so much more accessible and easy for me to type into. And then about once every 2 weeks, I just copy and paste those notes into Notion because I do like to organize them there, and it takes only a couple of minutes. So that's an example of a system in my life that just wasn't working for me and that I was pretty effortlessly able to reconfigure into something that I think is going to work a lot better in the future. Okay, so that was the first section, looking back. And now we are going to move on to the second part of the reset, which is looking around. This has to do with your physical space. If you are anything like most people, you probably have a physical space in your life that could use a little bit of love. Something might jump to mind right away, or you might want to take a few minutes to brainstorm, walk around your house, take a peek in cabinets and drawers, and just get a lay of the land and see what you're working with. For any given quarterly reset, which is generally what I use this for, I tend to try to choose between 1 to 3 spaces that I am going to work on. And so for me this year, I chose my car, my clothes, and actually a digital space, and that was my phone photos. So essentially I took stock of those 3 areas. I gave my car a big clean out and organization. I went through all my clothes, Marie Kondo style, and I also went through a bunch of photos on my iPhone and deleted a bunch of stuff that I don't need. Now, when you're doing this step of looking around, it's really easy to try to take on a bunch of different projects because a lot of us have a lot of different projects like this in our lives that we could work on, but I really urge you to try to choose just 1, 2, or maybe 3 different places depending on how big they are and how much time they're going to take so that you can get that fresh start feeling without being totally overwhelmed. And as the weeks go on, you can tackle some of those other places as well. But for your reset, try to narrow it down to just the most troublesome areas. And also keep in mind that this physical space reset doesn't necessarily need to be in reaction to somewhere that is disorganized or messy. It could also be something exciting like sprucing up your home office if you work at home, or adding new plants, or something that feels exciting and proactive and really good. It doesn't necessarily just have to be in reaction to something that feels less than good. It really just depends on where you're at and what your life is looking like right now. Moving on to the third and final section of this reset, we are going to look ahead. When looking ahead, there are a handful of things that I like to do to get me feeling motivated and inspired and excited to move forward. The first thing that I like to do when looking ahead is to consider how I want to feel, and then to create a collage of photos that help put me in that sort of feeling and that sort of mood. Unlike a typical vision board where you think about things and events that you want to draw into your life, it's not really about that. It's more about considering truly the emotion and the feeling that you want to feel inside of yourself, and then choosing photos and colors and maybe even words that spark and grow and nurture that feeling inside of you. If you're not a particularly visual person, you might choose to write a list of words, or even to select a poem or something else like that that gives you a certain feeling that you know you want to feel. But I'm a particular fan of the visual collage because it's really enjoyable to put together. The next looking forward action step is to select a book that you would like to read that is related to a habit that you want to build, a goal that you want to achieve, or a feeling that you want to feel. So this will likely be a personal development, nonfiction kind of book, but not necessarily. You can go online and look up books related to whatever it is that you are trying to achieve, and then choose something that speaks to you and seems like it will help you move forward in that particular area. Even if you're someone like me who already has a long list of books that you want to read, I encourage you to still do this because you might find something that actually speaks to you more than the books that are already on your list when you get deliberate and intentional about what you're trying to achieve. achieve. Next, I want you to take out your calendar, whether it is on paper or on your computer or on your phone. Take out your calendar and schedule some enjoyable things that you love. This is the place where you can look back at your reflections on what your highlights were from the past period and try to schedule more of those things in the future. I also particularly love scheduling things that are season related. So for example, for me, since fall is coming up, one of the things that I scheduled was apple picking. Try to schedule at least 2, maybe up to 6 or 7 different things for the next quarter, depending on how flexible your schedule is. If you enjoyed this video, you might like my productive day in the life, where I check off a bunch of little life maintenance tasks, including cleaning my car that I mentioned from the space reset section of this video. I so appreciate you watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.